People told me I was too sensitive. They were right. Here's why that changed my life. I was often told I was too sensitive. My parents said it, my partner said it, even my boss used to say it. And for years, I believed them. I thought I was the problem. I couldn't fathom how some people seemed to manage life a bit better than I did when I felt overwhelmed so much of the time. And then I finally found the answer, and it totally changed my life. Being sensitive isn't a flaw, it's a biological trait that roughly 15 to 20% of people have. And it's actually directly connected to why so many of us have a problem with alcohol. If you've ever been told you're too much, you're too sensitive, you overthink things, or you make too much of things, this video is specifically for you. I'm Sarah Connelly, and I've spent decades of my life drinking to tone down the noise. And it wasn't until I understood something really specific about myself that everything started to make sense. Today, I want to talk to you about something called HSP, high sensory processing, also known as high sensitive person, and a piece of research called the Orchid Theory, because I know that for a lot of people who might be watching this, it can be the missing piece that finally makes sense like it did for me and so many people that I've worked with. So have you ever wondered how some people just seem to cruise through life? They don't seem to get down or anxious. They just kind of shrug things off and get on with things. And have you ever decided that because you're not like that, there's something wrong with you because you're simply not built that way? Well, I really want you to understand this first. The world was not exactly designed for you. It's designed for the 80% by the 80%. The people who can walk into a loud, crowded, chaotic environment and go, yeah, fine, no problem. The people who can leave a difficult conversation and just move on. The people who can watch the news before bed and have no problem falling asleep. If that's not you, if everything you feel more intensely, if conflict in the room affects you, if it affects your body, if you walk into a party and somehow feel everybody else's energy before you've even said hello, then you must know this. You are not too much. In the early 1990s, a researcher named Dr. Elaine Aron identified specific traits in around 20% of people, and she called those people highly sensitive people, or HSP. She discovered around 15 to 20% of people have these traits, and it's also been identified in over 100 species so far. It's not a weakness, it's real, and it's evolution. In the research, high sensitivity is sometimes described with 4 key characteristics that I'll explain in just a moment. Deeper processing, stronger emotional reactivity, more awareness of subtle changes in the environment, and a tendency to feel overstimulated. In one study, almost half of the differences in sensitivity between people were linked to genetics, which means it isn't about you being dramatic. It's partly how your nervous system is built. See if you recognize any of these in yourself. Depth of processing. Your brain does not skim the surface. It goes deep, automatically, all the time. Number 2, emotional responsiveness. You feel things at a higher intensity. If something hurts, it really hurts. If something is beautiful, it can stop you in your tracks. And number 3 is sensing the subtle. You notice things that other people miss. The shift in someone's tone, the tension in the room, the thing that nobody's saying but everybody's feeling. And lastly, overstimulation. Loud environments, big crowds, too many decisions and too many people. It's genuinely exhausting in a way that it isn't for many other people. Even brain imaging shows how highly sensitive people have stronger activation in the areas like the amygdala and other regions involved in emotions and awareness, especially when they're taking in social or emotional information. So as the research suggests, high sensitivity is tied to more reactive stress response systems. That's the body's alarm system, which is why you feel things more intensely. So no, you're not imagining it. You feel things in a very different way, and you're wired to do so. This is physiology, not weakness, and sensitivity is not something to run away from. There are 2 types of people, a bit like plants. One that can grow in the cracks of the pavement. The other one, well, maybe that's you. A researcher named Tom Boyce spent years studying children, and he identified 2 types of people. He called them orchids and dandelions. The dandelion is pretty hardy. It can grow anywhere. It can grow in the crack of the pavement, in a field, in the wrong season. It just survives, adapts, and keeps going. The orchids, They needed something completely different. They needed specific soil, the right light, greenhouse care. But when it gets that, it doesn't just survive. It is and can be the most exquisite thing that you've ever seen. Now, here's what the research found. The orchid children, the sensitive ones, the ones that the world called too much, when they were given a supportive environment, they didn't just catch up to the dandelions. They often went way beyond them. They showed greater creativity, deeper compassion, and a huge capacity for empathy, beauty, and connection when they were really supported. Researchers sometimes call this differential susceptibility, high risk in harsh environments and high potential when the conditions are good. In adults, the same pattern shows up in many highly sensitive people. In the wrong environment, they struggle. In the right one, they can absolutely flourish. So let me ask you something. What if the problem was never you? What if the problem is simply that you have been trying to be a dandelion when you're actually an orchid? You weren't drinking because there was something wrong with you. You were drinking because there was something right with you, and nobody explained it. Alcohol reliably nudges the brain's reward and calming systems with things like dopamine and GABA, so things feel softer for a little while. For a highly sensitive person whose nervous system is already running hot, anxious, overstimulated, constantly on, that shift can feel like bigger relief than somebody else because the starting tension was at a high level. Don't have tons of studies yet saying that HSP have more alcohol problems, but we do know that people who are more stress reactive and sensitive to their environment are more likely to feel overwhelmed, and as a result, they're more likely to reach for things like alcohol to cope. You weren't drinking because something was intrinsically wrong with you. You were drinking because it provided some kind of relief from the manifestation of a trait that could, in fact, be your superpower. It's just that nobody ever explained it to you in that way. So what do we do with this information? Firstly, it's really important that we stop fighting this. We stop fighting who we are. I spent most of my 20s, my 30s, and even some of my 40s trying to be a dandelion. I was trying to toughen up and push through. I was drinking to cope, and I was exhausted because it's not possible. An orchid cannot be a dandelion. And no matter how hard you try, you're just not built for it. What is possible is learning what it is that you actually need. For me and for many other HSPs I've spoken to, it means having quite a lot of time on your own. It means stepping out of loud environments from time to time before you hit sensory overload. It means getting out in nature, to the ocean or to the trees so that your nervous system can calm. It means being very selective about who and what you give your energy to. These are not indulgences. This is what we call greenhouse care. And this is what allows me to thrive. And once you stop trying to be who you were never meant to be, something remarkable starts to happen. The anxiety settles, the depression lifts, not overnight, but gradually. And the more you take care for yourself, the more you don't feel the need to take the edge off, because the edge itself starts to get smaller and smoother. So here's what I'd like to leave you with today. If you've spent years, maybe decades, believing that the world's response to you was the truth about who you are, you were too much, you're too sensitive, you were too intense, it's not the truth. It was just that the 80% who don't understand you thought that that was the case. In fact, you're an orchid. You don't need to toughen up. You simply need the right conditions and the compassion to give them to yourself. To be clear, and I must say this is not a diagnosis. It's not meant to replace any professional guidance or help if you're struggling. But if in any way you are understanding this and notice that this might be the case for you, then please go over to the description where I've put links to some more research and information that I hope you will find helpful. This is simply about understanding your unique worry. So instead of fighting yourself, you learn to work with yourself. I'd love to know if this resonates. If it does, drop a comment below, even just the word orchid. That's enough, because when you name it, it starts to become real. And if this video found you at exactly the right moment, please do like, comment, and subscribe. And even share it. Perhaps there's someone in your life that you know that this might support and might make a difference to them and their experience. So in the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.